What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Jason.
And you're listening to the first episode in February of Liquid Kernedge. Tom's going to hate that.
Yeah, he is. I thought we weren't supposed to reference anything with dates on it anymore.
I,
But
I did
hey,
not give him the fourth episode of the year, fifth episode, whatever we are. That is not me moving around. For the record, that is Jason trying to get situated. I am sitting perfectly still as we record this week's show. What's going on, buddy?
nothing much, man. I'm recovering from a terrible loss by my team.
Yeah, you guys didn't show up on Sunday.
No, our defense showed up.
Oh yeah, I mean it was great until it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I guess we showed up more than any other team. I guess so.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is, man. But the Patriots are a buzzsaw. Most people knew that, and they find a way to win. You guys will be back. It's just one of those.
It's one and done, baby. One and done. But anyway,
wow. So you're jumping off the bandwagon already.
Yeah, a bandwagon I've been on for 40 years. Yeah, you think I'm jumping off? No.
Well, that's what I'm asking. You don't think they're coming back?
Yeah, they might. They could.
They might. They could. What's the problem? Like you don't think you're gonna get Sue back? You don't think you're gonna get? You guys got Goff under contract for 2 more years.
Yeah, I mean anything's possible. We'll see.
I mean,
we'll see.
2019 started on Monday, or for the football season, so you got to start getting ready to get better.
Oh yeah, dude, totally. Yeah, they had a big party at the place we went to in Vegas. It was it's like a convention center up there, and so they allow you to basically just go in and sit at these. But you can reserve tables. They got drinks. They've got food. They've got everything.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was really a lot of fun. We had a really good time. Drank a lot of beer. Oh my gosh, they had hard alcohol. They had beer. They had everything. So it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh, that's good. Well, at least you had a coping mechanism for your team. So
yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. We went out. Vegas a little bit, and then we saw my mom and spent some with her, and that was good. And then I came back to work, man.
That's a solid week for you,
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, it is now that dead time of the sports season for everybody, but where there's just basketball and hockey, and no one really cares about basketball or hockey anymore. We're just waiting for spring training, so we have a reason to go outside.
Yeah,
I think is what everyone's waiting for now. Pitchers and catchers report 1 week from today, as it is.
Do you think that our society spends so much time on sports that it takes away from doing more productive things?
Oh, I think it can. I think it does. I actually ended up watching a documentary the other night called "I Am Bill Murray," and it's interesting to me. It was a story about the documentary maker had heard all these urban legends about Bill Murray, about showing up at random things and random places and doing random things with all these people, and then some got photos and some didn't. And normally he would leave by saying, "No one will ever believe you that I did this with you," and then he'd walk away. And it was a very interesting documentary on Netflix. If you get the chance to watch it, I urge you to. It's only about an hour long, but it's a very interesting story about all these people that had experiences with Bill Murray, random in public. And the moral of the story of this whole documentary is that you shouldn't live your life for your cell phone or your routines, but live in the moment. I mean, Bill Murray's famous for getting his start in the Second City Improv group in Chicago, something you and I used to do way back when. And they say that he lives his life in a yes and game. You remember that game?
No, tell me.
You don't remember the yes and game?
Uh-uh.
Where we did it as a warm up. It's where everyone stands in a circle and someone starts a statement and you agree with them and you just build off the premise.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying. Right. Okay.
Yes, and they said that's what Bill Murray does, and that's what his gift is back to the world. Is he doesn't live his life by a schedule. He lives his life by the yes and game. And if you're lucky enough to be a part of that game with him, that in that moment you'll get a cool story, and if you blink, you might miss it. So I think that's I didn't mean to derail off the sports, but I think as a society we do, and there are people like Bill Murray who's trying to show us that we shouldn't live our lives like that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a ton of people there, a lot of Rams fans, but a lot of Patriots fans, a lot of just NFL fans. Like, I mean, there were jerseys from all kinds of different teams, and I was thinking, I'm watching the game, and obviously it was kind of a snore fest, and I'm watching. Myself drink, and everyone was drinking, and everyone was having a good time. People were it was packed in there. People were spending money like it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was estimating there was probably a good $1 to $2 million spent on that party alone.
Uh-huh.
And then you add up all the parties that are going on in the United States for one football game.
Yeah.
And you think, man, there's a lot of money spent there. What would that money mean if you donated it to charity, or if you opened up a nonprofit organization or did something else? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's true. It's all that money spent on one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. As a society, I think we love our sports. I mean, we love our, any sport, basketball, baseball, football, golf, whatever the sports might be. But it was mind boggling how much time was, because we got there at noon, because that's when the doors opened, was noon.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't leave till 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 7 hours. Wasted 7 hours of our lives for one football game. And let's be honest, most people on during the football season might spend 12 hours watching football all day, right?
That's true.
So we have a commitment to our sports.
Well, that's what it is. It's a society driven on football, on I'd say basketball once playoffs come. It's almost like gang related, if that makes sense. People are gang related when it comes to their teams. If you're a diehard sports fan, you live and bleed Ram blue and gold or Cardinal red and white. It's what you do, and they become colors. They become something that represents a piece of you, and I think that's great. But I think it's only a piece of you when it's all said and done. And that's what I want to know. What our listeners, if they're fans of the sport, who is their team, and do they rock those colors? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. Who's your team, and what colors do you represent? Is it just one, or is it multiple? Or are you a diehard fan of the city you're from or the state you're from, regardless? That's what we want to know.
That's a good question. Did you and your brother start from an early age liking the Cardinals or Arizona sports?
Tom was never a sports fan until he actually moved to Phoenix about 10 or 12 years ago. I think he's been in Phoenix 12 years now. So
okay.
He didn't start paying attention to sports until he moved down there. I've been a sports fan since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I got to figure it out. I grew up going to Cardinal games in Sun Devil Stadium when it was 110 degrees out, sitting on the metal bleachers, and they were terrible.
Yeah. And remember the one side, I guess the visitor side was always facing the sun.
Yeah.
Because it was brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
But we sat on the home side on the upper deck, and that sun beat down on you actually until November. But it was part of the game. And I grew up loving that team, even when they were terrible in the NFC East. And all the games on the road were the early games, and all the home games were blacked out because they could never sell out a 76,000 seat stadium when they were terrible. But that helped grow my love for basketball, for the Suns and the Diamondbacks and baseball. And I pay attention to hockey, but I split between watching the Coyotes and the Golden Knights out of Vegas. But that's just because I love the game. I love competition. I love trying to figure out what's the best way to put it? Just the skill and the strategy, if that makes sense.
Right. There's something about the idea of two closely, evenly matched opponents going and trying to decide who is better.
Yeah,
either for that day or just in general.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's it's the thrill of the sport, the thrill of the hunt. I want to see if you're matched up. Why is it a good matchup? Why is it a bad matchup? And understanding sports to me is a very easy concept for me to understand. And I think my parents have said it for years that if I actually paid half as much attention to reality in life as I did to sports, I would, probably rule the world. But
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm during this like the NFL season, I watch the stats. I find out who's leading the league in rushing. I mean, I am like constantly looking at just pointless dribble of football and what teams are doing and who's doing
but
what.
but that's what fantasy sports does to you, though. It makes you look at other teams and other players, and for as much as it drives some people crazy, it's really expanded the game, though, too. It's made more people pay attention to teams they wouldn't normally pay attention to because of certain players,
Yeah, yeah.
And
And go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and that's why the game's exploding so much as it is right now. It's because every major sports league is pushing their version of the fantasy game. So people pay attention, and you have to pay attention to that small market franchise in Ottawa for hockey or Tampa for baseball. It's because they've got that one player in your team, so you're going to check those box scores, and you're going to watch that game on Saturday afternoon if that's the game that's on.
Now, was your parents aren't big sports fans, are they?
No, my dad watches sports, and I think as a kid he paid attention to it when I paid attention to it. But I don't. They were never diehard fans. I mean, they'll watch if the game's on, but they're not going to go out of their way to, spend a season going down to like football games or basketball games. When the Suns were really good back in the mid '90s, early '90s, we'd go to games all the time, and they were fun to watch. So my parents watched them quite a bit. But once they started to be bad again, they checked out, and I think that's normal though for a lot of fans. You have to be a diehard fan of the sport to not check out. And I've been a big basketball fan since I was 8 years old, and I'm 37, almost 38, and I just don't. I can't watch the Suns right now because they're terrible.
Oh
I'll pay
yeah.
attention to
Well,
box scores. I'll watch the dribble things, but I just can't watch them play because it's hard.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that so much of sports, we take it upon ourselves as a reflection of us. I'm a fan of yours, so when you're out there, you represent me. And when we have a bad team that represents us, it's hard. It's really
Yeah,
hard.
absolutely. And I look at that when I meet new people. Are they sports fans? Do they follow football? Who are their team? And I judge them solely based on their actual knowledge of the game, not just, well, I'm from Seattle, so I wear a number 12 jersey. No, I want to know, do you know who Sean Alexander is or Steve Largent? Tell me about Dave Craig. I mean, if you're a fan, you know the game. But if you're just from there, like my aunt and uncle are notorious for that. They only watch the Seahawks when they're good. And it drives me fucking nuts because they
Well,
troll my parents. And it makes my parents mad. But my parents do the same thing. They just don't troll back when Arizona's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have been a diehard fan of the Rams since the '70s. My grandfather took me to my very first football game was the Los Angeles Rams, and back in the day when it was the and it was in the '70s. So hell, before you were
Yeah.
born was my first game. Now, I don't know what about that experience was so amazing that made me become a diehard fan, but I was a diehard fan. And as a result, ever since then, I've loved the Rams. I think I love the Dodgers for the same reason. My grandfather took me to a Dodger game when I was a kid and visiting with him. So maybe our affinity towards sports also brings us back to, simpler times when we developed these sort of appreciation for the competition and we wanting the winning team.
Yeah, and it comes down to bonding. If you can bond with someone close to you over something as simple as sports, I think it's huge. I think it's a massive bridge that you can find other common ground on. Because if nothing else, you might have a strained relationship across the board, but if sports is the common denominator you can talk about, you almost always have something to talk about to make sure that person stays close to you in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe our society is just built where we thrive and there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser.
Well, isn't that life though, as it
Uh, you
is? I
know,
mean, don't.
no, I don't think so. There's a lot of societies out there that like relish and cherish that everyone has an equal opportunity to a normal or a comfortable life.
Yeah.
But they're okay if everyone is at the same level and no one is farther ahead than others.
So is a winner and loser culture bad for society, do you think?
Well, we're sure getting that tested in politics now, aren't we?
We
I
are.
mean, you definitely have the two sides of, you're either a winner or you're a loser. And then you have the other side was, where, too many people are left behind while too few people move ahead and are, we want to level the playing field.
Well, what defines it?
And each person will have a thinking of that, but you're right. It's a question.
Well, what defines a winner and a loser in today's political society?
Well,
because you follow politics a lot more closely than I do. And,
yeah,
I follow the local stuff and some on a nationwide level, but it aggravates me too much to follow it consistently.
I think that one thing that seems very clear to me is that, anyone who threatens our way of life is an enemy or is against us, right? So anyone who would say, "Hey, let's allow all people to be equal, and let's allow," it threatens the idea that your own worth can be different than anyone else, but you make your own worth. That to me seems like a very a fine line that defines if you believe that anyone can make their own worth and everyone should fend for themselves, then certain people think that that's a winning attitude, right? And anyone who can't do that, that's a loser, or that's someone who is losing the competition. So maybe the metaphor of sports is more of, life is a sport, and if you're successful, then you're a winner, and if you're not successful, then you're
as opposed to life is a garden. Dig it.
As opposed to life is a garden, dig it. I like it. I like it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and in sports, though, I mean, that's how we define, the Patriots. They are the best team, right? They're the best team when it mattered. Maybe that's the difference. When the chips were on the table, they were the best team. Maybe 5 times out of 10, they lose that game. If they played 5 times, maybe they would lose that game. But that particular day, when it counted, they were a winner.
What I appreciate about the Patriots, and this is not to change the subject of what you're saying, but I was reading an article, I think it was Monday Morning Quarterback after the Super Bowl, and they had an interview with some of the players. And they said the reason the Patriots are so good and they've been so good is that they're selfless. They understand, they buy into the system that you have to adapt to find a way to win. And you have to be selfless at that, knowing that you might not be the star, but you can be a piece of the puzzle or a piece of the solution if it helps the team win. And you just have to be able to be flexible and do whatever it takes. Do your fucking job.
Yeah. Yeah. The, and with that too, I think that, what do you see at the end of a football game, no matter who wins or who loses? They shake each other's hands. They wish them a good game. So even the loser is accepted by the winner with graciousness and with a sense of, you pushed us to be the best. So we are appreciative that even though you lost, we're going to show you good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
And I think we value that as a society. I think we do.
I think we have to. Otherwise, we're hypocrites to what we teach our kids.
Well, let's just say that in today's world, I don't think sports matches the way our government politics works.
No, I don't think it does either.
It's hard to say winners and losers. It's hard to say winners or losers when you think about the fact that we don't mirror what the simplest of lessons that we would teach about good sportsmanship and to play fairly and to play, to play honorably and, reach out your hand to be a good winner or even a good loser. That's not the same kind of picture that we deal with in life or in sports. But, maybe we should be looking at the way we handle sports to other things in our lives.
And that's a good point. It's, understand you don't win them all. And when you do lose, and you come up short, you have to be gracious about it. You have to understand that someone put in more work, and you have to put your nose to the grindstone to find that next level.
Well, maybe, that there's so many things that we can learn from it, because don't we respect? No, just that maybe sports is something that we look at for other metaphors, because we want to teach our kids to be with sportsmanship, right? And we emulate teams like the Patriots, who do something under the same rules, but do something that other teams can never do. We value that as a society. We value that. We don't look negative on teams that can't do it. I guess maybe we do. Maybe, I don't know. But the sportsmanship and that kind of stuff. Why can't we teach those life lessons on other areas of our lives?
Isn't that what sports is supposed to be about? It's supposed to teach kids these life lessons. That sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's just as important to be a gracious winner as it is a gracious loser. You have to be willing to do what it takes to put the time in to come out on top. But if you don't, you have to learn from your mistakes and find a way to get back out on top. I mean, isn't that the moral of what most parents try to teach their kids?
Then how have we gotten so far away from that in other parts of our society?
I think as a society, we've gotten so butthurt, worried about who's red or who's blue, that we're going to draw a line in the sand and be stubborn, because that's just what we do. If you don't want to see my opinion, why should I respect yours?
Yeah, there's. Well, and I think that's the thing that's so odd to me is, as a kid, we learn sportsmanship. And if you're a winner, be a gracious winner. If you're a loser, be a good loser. Don't be a crybaby and, just take that. But in life, people want to be a winner.
Yeah, but
they don't want to be
at that
loser.
point, though.
I mean, and maybe it's because they don't value it. I don't know.
Maybe it's not because everyone gets participation trophies. And honestly, maybe it's it. Maybe it's because now everyone gets something for trying. And there's no winners, there's no losers, as long as everybody has fun. And that's the problem with the world. If you don't know how to win, if you don't know how to lose, you just think you should get something because you tried. That is the epitome of the pussification of America.
Well, and even in sports, I mean, we remember when we played flag football, and we played against that team that had that quarterback who used to play college football, and that team always destroyed us every year we played against them. Yet we always tried to play our best, even though we knew we were going to lose. Yes. We always tried to play our best because it was going to represent who we were as players and who we were as a team. That at least we tried. We went out there and we tried, and even though we lost the game, I never felt like we were losers because
and maybe that's the moral of the story is you have to try no matter what. But trying's cool and all, but sometimes you just got to win, and you got to find a way to win.
And maybe that's the thing. It's hard is what does winning look like? What does winning look like? Because not all the time is winning achieving your goal. Not every time is winning, crushing your opponent and driving them into the ground. I think
some sports you do that. Other areas, I think sometimes you have to test the waters, and maybe you lose a couple of times so you can figure out how to win. If that makes sense. I don't always have to come out on top right away, but ultimately I always do win because I find weaknesses through testing my opponents.
Right. But and that's the thing is that in a society when winning is everything and finishing second is nothing, it doesn't give you a lot of room for anyone else to have a moral victory, right? Doesn't give anyone else room to be a success. You either win
or you lose into
everything, or you're lose and you're nothing. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't leave many options, does it?
And
the problem is that people will determine what winning looks like. When it's always winning and losing being one or the other, people will interpret what winning looks like in so many different ways that it blurs what winning really stands for.
That's true. It's, that's just the way our society has devolved, though, too. It's and that's the only way to really put
Yeah,
it.
well,
We haven't evolved from any of this current political climate. I think it's probably polarizing the people more, and it's defining people more as winners or losers, whether that's the right thing or not.
yeah. I mean, even when we were at this party, kind of going back full circle, we were at this party, and there was a couple people that were getting really angry, of being representing their team, and when their team was winning, they were talking a lot of crap and making it, making all kinds of statements and getting a little belligerent. And I'm like, dude, let's remember when we were kids, being a good sport, being a good, gracious winner. And it's definitely not what everyone believes, like, I guess.
And that's a good point. I guess everyone's raised differently and everyone has different expectations. It's the nature of the beast, and it's a part of the world that we have to learn to accept again and be gracious about. Winning and losing is not everything. It's how we treat people as individuals. Makes sense? That's
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Like respect, like that respect, like
Yeah.
being like I've always hated people who lost the game and then they bitched and
Yeah.
complained because, oh, well, you cheated and you did this. It's like, hey, you lost fair and square. Just acknowledge it and be okay that you lost. It doesn't reflect, it doesn't establish your value to this world that you lost.
For me, it goes back to
because everyone
it goes back to
sometimes.
this Bill Murray documentary I watched. It had a good moral to the story. As far as what the movies, the roles that Bill Murray has taken over the years, it doesn't fucking matter. Life has ups, life has downs. There's good and there's bad, but at the end of the day, none of it matters. You have to enjoy what you have. You have to be good to each other. You have to enjoy those little moments, and you have to find a way past your differences to make the most of the life you have.
Yeah. Well, all I know, Scott, is with you as my friend, I'm a winner, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thumbs up to me.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you bring to my life too.
So, in the game of life, we're winners.
I think so.
Wow.
But that
I want a hug now, man. I want a hug, man.
But that's not for us to determine at the end of the day, But that's our opinion versus everyone else's. But
that's true.
Why don't you tell us what you think about winning and losing in life? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. And what do you think about Tom's swear trek? I almost said Star Trek or Star Search.
He's gonna ding you on that. Yeah, he's gonna ding you on that. He's gonna ding you.
His swear trek of the week with this episode. Hit him up at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram. He always has something almost witty to say. So,
we love our executive producer. He's the best, man. He is the absolute best.
We do. He's entertaining in his own right. So, Jason, why don't you take us home on this one?
Well, to all our listeners, we always appreciate you. Thank you very much. We think you're winners in our books, so thanks for listening. That was Scott. I am Jason, and as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.